G'day viewers, my name's Graeme Stevenson and I'd like to invite you to come on a journey of creativity and learning and adventure through the series Colour in Your Life. There's an artist in every family throughout the world, and lots of times there's an artist deep down inside all of us as well. So grab your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, uncles and mums and dads and come and see how some of the best artists do what they do.
Well, hi folks. Well, we are down in Greenpoint near Gosford and Woy Woy in the south coast of New South Wales, or just north of Sydney it is. And it's going to be a really interesting day. When I first got this gentleman's email and his information, I thought he'd actually sent me a book. So when I was printing all of his information out, it was just amazing. But I would like to introduce you to the gentleman that we're going to be working with today. He's got some amazing artwork. Mr. Graham Austin, Mr. OAM. I'm going to discuss the OAM part about this a little bit after the first part of the interview. But you are a multi-award winning artist. You've literally had numerous publications. You've been vice president and president of a number of different art societies across the country, particularly in this area. You were the president of the Australian Watercolour Institute for 14 years.
Longest serving president.
Which was a job that you only thought you were going to take on for 3 years.
That's right, yes.
It's quite amazing stuff. I mean, without sort of going into the whole thing, because it's really long and we're going to put as much as we can into this today. I mean, you're originally involved in design and advertising, and then you've moved on to be part and parcel of the art world. So how did that actually come about?
Well, I've always painted, and in fact, I was playing up as a child and my grandfather said, give him a pencil and paper, that always shuts him up.
Yeah.
I was in a cot, mind you.
Yeah.
And according to my grandfather, I drew the corner of the ceiling and the wall and the light hanging down, fairly naively.
Yeah.
But it's his story and I'm sticking with it.
Well, it was at the age of 7 that you actually got on an aeroplane and you flew out over some of this vast, amazing country that we come from. And that's really part and parcel of what Graham's work is all about, is that you see these fantastic, massive landscapes. And he paints in a style called pointillism. Originally Seurat started that in the 1880s, but it's an amazing style. But some of the stuff that you do, or most of the stuff that you do, is based from looking down. And it was about the age of 7 that you actually hopped in an aeroplane with your dad and then started flying, and you looked down and it was a sort of fairly cathartic moment for you when you sort of thought, gee, look at that scenery. And that really extended through to the rest of your painting career as you went along.
Yeah, well, we were camping at a place called Lake Tudibaring down the south coast, and the seaplane came in giving joy flights, and he offered me to ride in the seaplane, and I'd never been in a plane before. I was amazed looking down at the ground. Trees were dots, rocks were dots, and surf was like strung out cotton wool.
Yeah.
But it stayed with me all my life, and then it was later I went up into Oberon, up in the Blue Mountains, looking down into the valleys. There were the steep mountainsides and the trees were dots, and I thought, oh look, I'm up in that aeroplane again.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't been in a plane all that time, but the memories were strong, and it came through to me there, and that immediately helped me change my style.
That's fantastic.
And I developed to what I am now.
And your career has been really well respected. You've done so many great things for so many people. I mean, you're in the Masonic Lodge for 50 years as well. You've really helped a lot of people, a lot of kids associations out over the years. And Graham received the OAM. They are basically accolades from the Crown and your own country for achieving, greatness within what you did. We both have an OAM. It's the first time I think 2 Grahams have been on TV and both have OAMs, and we got it for the same reason, which was for our contribution to the visual arts. So it's a great honour for me to be here today with Graham, because I know how much I had to put in to get where I got to, and I understand how much you had to put in to get where you got to as well, so congratulations.
You make it sound easy.
Yeah, no, it wasn't by any means. But the main purpose of us being here today is, of course, to illuminate all of you about Graham's life, but to also go through this fascinating process that the users called stippling and pointillism, and find out how he puts these magnificent pieces of work together. So, once again, I'm going to step out of camera and we're going to let this man show us how he does what he does. It's a really interesting style. First time we've actually had somebody on the show that does this, so I think you're going to have a fascinating time looking at what he does. So let's get stuck into it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're going to start this. Now, in saying that, your particular style, a lot of people say to you, it's an Aboriginal style, but it's really not.
No.
It was actually developed. It was actually developed in '71 by a guy called Geoffrey Barden, who actually taught in an Aboriginal community. But it's still a fascinating style under any circumstances, which is the stippling and the pointillism. But I think you've just taken it to a different level completely.
Well, years ago I asked myself, what are people not doing? And pointillism was never taken very far.
But it's a fascinating style, it really is. It just looks beautiful. So we've got this amazing big stippling brush. I've never seen one that size before, which is obviously the makeup of your particular style. So where do we go from here? What do we do?
Well, that's a smaller brush, but let's put in some paint.
Yeah. And you stand up all the time when you do this?
Yeah, I'll get down on my haunches.
Yeah.
I put in 3 colours.
And they just sit side by side, or?
Sit side by side.
Yeah.
And I put in the yellow, and I put in the lavender, and now I'm putting in a white.
You use Matisse paints for this?
Matisse, yes.
Yep. And away you go. And it's a fascinating style, isn't it? And you really work it up in layers then, if that's the case?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And always just starting with a white canvas at the base?
Yes. I need to just wet my brush a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because the paint is a bit thick.
Away you go.
Now I've mixed the colours too much. So I'll make it look easy, but it's a little more difficult trying to work the patterns without being too mechanically minded.
It's such striking work, but you use a lot of great complementaries in your work as well.
Yes, I try to get colour playing against colour.
Yep.
The way I'm doing this is only a background.
Yes.
And probably end up being a waterhole scene, you know, Rockpool from around the seashore.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the pictures that you actually have, because it's similar to cartography itself, which is the map making, you call a lot of your pieces, like this one I'm just bringing up now, called Cartographic Creek.
Oh yes.
So, yes. And a lot of them are cartography or something to do with
map makers painting.
Map makers painting. That's the best way to put it. There's another one here that you've got here. It's called Coastal Curvature. And a lot of your stuff really is taken from, you know, you're looking down 5,000–10,000 feet as you go across.
Yes, and I've imagined myself up even higher.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably near enough. I'll let that dry and then work over it again for the shape of how the rock is formed, and creating a hole and all that sort of thing. Now I've just poured some paint in the tray, a bit of burnt sienna and a mixture of burnt sienna and, say, ultramarine, and I wet a sponge, and it's like doing watercolour. I wet the canvas.
Yeah. I mean, some of the pieces that you do, Graeme, are really quite large as well. You know, fantastic pieces like the cartography one, even the one that's right behind you right now. Just amazing aerial view, looking down on a salt plain with rivers and trees. It's a fascinating look, it really is.
Well, I mixed the two paints here together.
Yep.
And it's like I'm working on a watercolour.
Yeah. I mean, once you've obviously got it's dried, and then that layer, that sponge layer of water goes down, this is how you build up the rest of it.
And I'm just trying to get a sense of looking down the edge of a rock and the flat surface on the top.
Yep.
And allowing the paint to run as like a watercolour. I'm getting a bit dark at the moment for what I want.
I think it's similar to a piece that you've actually done beforehand called Rockpool north of Avoca.
It is. I'm basing it on those lines, but not too strictly. I tend to be a spontaneous painter, and some things don't go right, or as I planned, but then that doesn't matter because I want to adjust according to what's going on.
Now, part of your journey in life is that you had a really interesting and fascinating beginning. You were actually adopted when you were 2 months of age. With the information that you sent me, I'm quite sure that you could either do a mini series or a movie, because it's quite fascinating, the journey that all of your family took for you to be born and get you to where you are now.
It was interesting to me. I must admit, I was surprised when I found out things, and yeah, I'm pleased that I found my birth family. I'm pleased, I'm pleased about the upbringing I had. My parents were fairly strict, but then that gave me a good sense of discipline, self-discipline. And I think as an artist, a lot of artists lack self-discipline.
Yes, I agree. But it wasn't until 2003 that you actually were able to get the information you needed from the Adoption Information Act to find out who your birth mum actually was.
Yes, well, I did it before. My mother never wanted me to make inquiries, then suddenly she changed her mind. So I did. I made inquiries and then was surprised at what I found. I kept an open mind. I accept whatever is, and I was actually rewarded with what I found. I love my birth family, and as much as I love my adopted family. So
it sort of it completed your mission in the end.
Yeah, it was an important discovery.
Now, if you'd like to hear more about this story, and this is a story that you simply couldn't make up, it is movie script type of stuff, you can go into his website at grahameaustin.com.au and go into the watercolour section and scroll down. You can see some of the other beautiful paintings that Graeme has in there. They are, it's like looking at opal from high above. They're just extraordinary. But this amazing story is in there as well, so go in there and have a look. It's grahameaustin.com.au.
Well, I need to stop for a bit because I like to see what I'm doing, but I'll just put a couple of little dabs in here, which should soften up a little bit. And look, I think I want to let this dry now.
Okay.
I've brought this painting in to show you what I'm using for inspiration, or a reminder of a waterhole at north of Avoca that I've already painted, but I'm not sticking strictly to the rules with this painting. It's another painting, but slightly inspired by the older one. And you've seen what I've done so far. You haven't seen what it actually is because you're looking at it upside down. I want to lighten some of these bits. I really want to emphasise the sense of the top of the rock and when the drop of the rock, the vertical. So this will help to do a little bit of that without doing too much.
And also, as part of your training as a young man, apart from being involved with your photography and your design and your advertising, you also went to the National Art School in East Sydney Tech. So how did you find that?
I loved it. I used to go at night after a full day's work in a display company in those days. And it gave me a second life in a sense. Plus I also liked meeting with a whole lot of other art students and others with similar interests. Okay, I want to work on the shadows a little more and even show where I'm casting shadow. Looking at this painting, I'm wanting to achieve a similar effect to what I have going through here, even with that bright blue shadow. But at this stage, I'm really trying to build up the form of call it a cliff edge. There's another piece that you've got here called Rockpool Flow, and you can really see the depth of the water, the refraction, the reflection. It's a really nice piece. It actually almost looks like a bit of a Dali piece, but yeah, just a lot of depth in the water. It looks great. I had that one in the Gosford Art Prize. But I mean, even saying that, you've won 35 major prizes in your career, which is pretty damn impressive. So how often do you, I know that you've got crows or even birds in some of your work. They've got one called Upper Reach, and there's the silhouette of these two black crows. So you're even above the crows looking down. Yeah, I thought that was a fascinating thing to do. Yeah. So now I'm going to paint some water in here, which will show the underpainting through it as well. And I'm using a turquoisey green. So you can see that coolness coming through. I may even, well, I probably will paint over this that I've got down. I've wet the canvas and even maybe the gods will smile, and there should be a sense of electricity or whatever colour energy appearing now. And those white bits of canvas that I left before are turning out a paler turquoise, and the colour over the yellowish sand colour should look a little more green. Now, as that dries, that's helped that section to recede. That helps me to put some more life into that sand base after, if I choose. That's suddenly brought that whole canvas alive more now. It's popped out, hasn't it? But at this stage, I'm best to leave it to dry. And my approach is a slow way. It doesn't take me long to put it down, but it takes me a while to let it dry and then also decide what I'll do next. Because I want to create, we talked privately about a sense of spirituality to my work. And I try to achieve that there's a sense of something, a mood that's a deep-seated feeling within yourself. You know, would the word be reverence? Reverence could be, yeah. I think that's a good word. May I quote you? You certainly can. I think I already have. Right, I've mixed up this electric blue that I want to paint on these shadows, the shadow cast on the water. It's a secret weapon I have that I quite like, and it keeps appearing in my paintings. Yeah, I really love that blue. It's in a lot of your work. It sort of resuscitates the work in a sense. Yeah, that blue that you're talking about, you've got a piece called Dancing Floodplain, and that blue, it's almost like it's like a rich cobalt blue. It's got a luminescence of its own. The thing I love about a lot of your work is it looks like opal. You use those colours, I mean, it really does bring out the colours that are actually under the ground in those areas. Yes, yeah, that's probably a subconscious thing. There's another one that you got there called Golden Mungo Landscape. And you get these great, you get these great swirling salt flats, and then they'll be surrounded by scrub and mulga, and then like a little path or a stream that sort of pops up occasionally when it rains. Yeah.
There's a really abstract and geometric patterns when you look down from the sky. Yeah, there's, as you described before, there's a great sense of spirituality and reverence when you look at the landscape from those distant aspects.
A lot of it is a salute to the Aboriginal people and their beliefs.
Yeah.
And I can't put it into words, it's a feeling.
All right, now you've mixed up some white and you've got your giant stippling brush again. What are we going to do now?
What I want to do is put some stronger highlights in the rocks.
Yeah, now you're putting the white down. It reminds me of another piece. Looks like you've almost got an alien creature in there, but it's another one that's looking down on a salt pan of somewhere called River Spirit Cartography. And I really like the cartography series that you've done because they really do display the rivers and the inlets and the sand flats, the salt flats. They're great to look at.
What I want to do is now make it look more sunsetish. I'm putting this orange glaze on. Some of the white is still wet and bits of it might wash off, but it gives me that original texture of pointless texture. Brings that back. Now look at that, it's getting something of a glow.
It's come up a treat.
Well, you've given me a good chance to show what I do and how I do it, and I appreciate that. But I won't be able to finish it now because I would like to spend a bit of time looking and reworking a couple of bits, but just bringing it up tickety-poo. It's not looking too bad, but it's a little more time I would prefer.
Well, it's been a fantastic day with you, Graeme, and we have learnt a whole bunch of amazing things and got to understand the life of a pretty amazing man. It's had an amazing history and has the accolades of the Order of Australia Medal. So congratulations on everything you've done. It's been quite spectacular. And because of the beauty of TV, Graeme has finished the piece and here it is, and it looks spectacular as well. But thank you for a great day.
Oh, thank you very much, Graham.
All right, guys, from Green Point down in Gosford in Australia, Graham Austin OAM, thank you very much for having us in the studio. Now, what an amazing man and what an amazing history as well. I mean, we talk about a life, just incredible, and vice president and presidents of all of these different associations. It's really well done. Now, your website address is?
grahameaustin.com.au.
Don't forget that, guys. You can go and see on all those amazing stories. And once again, you can always come and see us on YouTube and on Facebook. We're on Pinterest, we're on Instagram, just about everything you can think of these days. But until we see you all again, remember, down in Gosford, remember, make sure you put some colour in your life. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye now.